Hello there, this is Rohan from Team CLJ, a drive for sustainable corporate world. Today we have with us Mr. Vishrut Jain, who is an alumni of 2012 batch of NUJS Kolkata. Mr. Jain started working as an in-house counsel for ICICI Bank and then Tata Capital. He then worked as an assistant vice president at Yes Bank and then switched over to a Myanmar-based law firm where he worked as a senior manager with the banking and finance team. Mr. Jain eventually branched out on his own and started working as an entrepreneur on his CLAT coaching classes, CLAT Sure.
Hello everybody, and welcome to this short video discussing the corporate world. It is entitled, quite appropriately, Navigating the Corporate World. So basically, first of all, I would like to congratulate the Corporate Law Journal, or the CLJ, for having come out with this initiative, and I would like to thank them for giving me this opportunity to participate in it.
In this video, Mr. Jain talks about the various career paths one can pursue after graduation. He has some helpful tips for young graduates who are just starting out to help them find their feet in the corporate world. He also talks about what it's like to work as an in-house counsel and then branching out as an entrepreneur. He also shares some experiences that he has accumulated through his various roles working in the industry. Please subscribe to our channel to get notified about upcoming brainstorming videos with eminent personalities. Thank you.
It's quite heartening to be in such august company, because a lot of speakers here are like partners of prestigious tier 1 firms and other academic scholars and learned people like that. And while all of them have kind of shared their wisdom, and many have delved into particular corporate laws and particular like areas and legislations which they wanted to deal with, including like particular sections of law and things like that. I would like to keep my session a little more broad based, in the sense I would just like to give an overview of the corporate world, and something which like when I speak, I kind of imagine on two hands. On the one hand, I imagine a student of law who now is deciding what to do with their career, what to do with their life, and the second would be like probably like people who are veterans in the firms, and when they are approaching the new entrance, so to speak, the newbies, as we often say, how they would be treated and how they would be dealt with. So looking at both the aspects, because like I started off of course as an absolute fresher and moved into a role of relative responsibility, what is known as middle management in in-house corporate terms. Let me begin by addressing the the students, and I'm sure like things would fall into place later on. Because obviously like the two are in synergy and in sync with each other, so they must be dealt with as such and not in silos. Okay, so first of all, I would like to tell any aspirant of law, you have a multitude of options in front of you. Corporate law is just one of them. Since we are focusing on corporate law here, this will be the subject of my short video, but you may go into litigation, you may go into any which thing you feel like. Even for example, myself, after having spent nearly a decade in the corporate sector, I decided to step out of it, right? So you see examples like this all the time. You see partners leaving and setting up their own practice, breaking away, doing totally different things, joining NGOs, becoming artists. Like there are all sorts of people I've met who have gone into civil services, all sorts of things you find. Politicians, for that matter. One senior of mine from NUJS, he's quite a well-known figure in the BJP, and another one in the Congress as well. So you have a lot of examples like this. To somebody who has then decided to go in for corporate law as a full-fledged career, once you get to that table which is assigned to you in that firm, you will find yourself either in a cubicle or an open space plan, and you will be a little intimidated no matter who you are. It happens to everyone. It happened to me. It happens to the best of us. Yeah, when you see a whole new environment, when you see a whole new set of faces who seem to know everything, who seem like to be working in clockwork, it seems like the first day of college 10 times over again, right? So that fear kicks in, that fear of the first day of school kicks in once again. You're afraid about the neighborhood bully. You're afraid somebody will steal your lunch. Worst of all, you're afraid that you will have to eat lunch alone. These things are very common. These things happen everywhere. Don't need to worry about it. The first thing you need to remember is don't lose heart. Whether it's the managing partner or the cleaning lady, everyone has been through it. Everyone has to go through the grind. Everyone has to go through the process of settling into their role, and it's nothing to lose heart about. Another thing is, don't lose your spark of madness, because what I often find is a sea change in people when they're in the last year of college and after their first year of being in the corporate world. Many times, like, they come back for their graduation ceremony the next year, and their hairs are white now, their body language has changed, they have put on 20 pounds, they're totally different, their spirit is crushed, basically, because corporate law can do that to you. Let's be very honest here. It's a grind. All right, the hours are long. The pay might be decent, but they extract every last penny out of you. And by the end of the day, you may be battered and broken and humiliated, and there might be so much to it, right? But don't lose your spark of madness. Okay, this is something that Robin Williams said. You gotta stay strong. You gotta keep your charm. Yeah, that's the only thing that will get you through at the end of the day. And another thing is, it's okay to fail. Sometimes you might mess up a project spectacularly. You might make a huge mistake. You might become the black sheep of the entire office. It's okay. It happens. It's not the end of the world. The corporate world is a forgiving place, no matter how cold and daunting it may seem. I have seen instances of second chances, even third chances sometimes. So there's nothing to lose heart about. There's always something else you can do. There's always a way to redeem yourself. So don't be afraid to fail. It's okay to fail. And another thing is, it's okay to feel, right? Because many times in the corporate world, we end up becoming very soulless, very dead inside, so you might see a very dark picture painted for you, if all the sources are to be believed. It's not that gloomy, trust me. Okay, it can be a fun place, and you should not lose your sense of feeling. You should not become numb. Okay, because at the end of the day, you are doing an important job. You're doing your duty. You're fulfilling your role, and you are earning an honest day's meal. That should make you really proud. At the end of the day, a corporate job gives you job security like no other. It pays you like no other job in India. Engineering won't pay you as much. Medical takes forever. Law is the way to go. Being in the corporate legal sector, it is the right place to be. And India at the moment is booming. So whatever you do, stick to your guns and things will be all right. Okay. Another thing I want to say, which may be slightly contradictory to what some other people might tell you, is that try to fit in. Many people might tell you that there's no need for you to try and fit in. You don't have to please everybody. But I would say, do try to fit in. You don't have to go it alone. You don't have to fight everybody. You don't have to be a rebel. Okay, most places are reasonable. There's a reason why everything is in a certain order. You don't have to be the angry young person who changes the whole system. There's a time and place for that. First, you should fit in. First, you should learn, because oftentimes our retaliation is based on our own misunderstanding of what is expected of us. Right? So first, spend your first year, spend your second year just trying to learn the ropes, try to see the way around, and then try to align your beliefs to what you have learned in the past 1 year or two. Okay? So don't go raging in like a bull in a china shop. Right? Okay. Another thing is, Nelson Mandela once said that a common mistake that some people make is that they expect that their enemies should be our enemies. This is not necessary. There's a lot of office politics that go on. There's a lot of people who will try to convince you against another person, against another, they will try to make factions, and they will try to make cliques, and they will try to bring you in. And when the entire thing explodes, then it might just explode in your face. You might find yourself friendless. So it's better to stay away from these kind of office politics. When I said try to fit in earlier, I didn't mean that you should make other people's enemies your own. Okay, think for yourself, do a reasonable day's work hard, and things will come to you. Don't try to get involved in office politics, it will only bring you down, right? Some people also ask me about the difference between an in-house and a law firm. Let me tell you, like, in-house really gets a bad rep, although they do a really important function and a role. So when you are in in-house, everybody tells you like a law firm is actually where the real work happens, and like in-house is just a support function, or just like a compliance function, or just like a it's not really as important as being in a law firm. So I always had that impression that an in-house is a very cushy job, or like it's a very chilled out place to be. And when I decided to move to to a law firm, people said that you're doing exactly the opposite of what people normally do. They max themselves out, they burn out in a law firm, and then they move to a cushy in-house role. But honestly speaking, I just wanted to experience everything. I wanted to have that exposure as well of Southeast Asian laws. And honestly speaking, I find that even working in a law firm, it is impossible without the role of the in-house. So even if you, if for example, if you were doing a deal with the IFC and the borrower on the other side, and you were the law firm for IFC, you had to be in close coordination with the team. Otherwise, it would not be possible. And usually, the in-house teams would be as good as any of the law firms. So this is a myth which I'd like to dispel. Even regarding the pay, law firms and in-house pay practically the same amounts. There is not that much of a gap between the pay in an in-house role and a law firm role. So I would say it's a matter of personal choice whether you would prefer to be in-house or you would prefer to be in a law firm. I don't think there's any stigma attached as such to being in an in-house. That is an equally important function as being in a law firm, right? Then some people have asked me about the entire thing about us and them. When you are in India, you are used to a certain style of functioning. When you are in another country, they are used to a certain style. And where I was in Southeast Asia, I found there was a community of lawyers in my firm who belonged to practically every nation there was in the world. So it was like a United Nations kind of inside that law firm. You had people from practically every country in Europe. You had people from America, Australia, everywhere. Okay, so the fundamental point I found running through all of their their style of functioning and ours is that they would call our drafting and our style of working impenetrable. If you presented a draft from any Indian law firm, they would say, we can't read this, it's too complicated. They use very simple 4-word sentences. They don't use the archaic language that we are used to, like hereinbefore and hereinafter, legal maxims, that nemo, that. There is no need to get into this kind of stuff. They laugh at us. Like, I'm talking about Britishers. They're like, so I used to tell them, like, it's your fault. Like, you gave this to us. But they're like, we stopped using it. You're welcome to have it all and use it all you like. So we sort of get very pompous in the legal profession. This especially applies to litigation. It also applies to corporate documents. We structure it in a very complicated manner. But if you look at APLMA documents, or if you look at they are very streamlined. FIDIC documents, yellow FIDIC, silver, red, they're all very streamlined. The blue books, they're literally, it's by the book. So this is some takeaway which, I think the Indian firms can, have. There is no need for such complicated drafting. I think ease of doing business comes from simplified drafting, not simplistic or simple drafting, but simplified drafting. I think that is the need of the hour, because any which way, drafting is being overtaken by AI at an alarming rate, and we need to really do something about it. Talking about entrepreneurship and how many people who are in so-called corporate jobs, switch over to the other side and become business owners, running firms, and branching out into other things as well. In my case, it was similar, and honestly speaking, I think both sides have their own advantages. Personally, I like knowing that I am my own boss. I can do whatever I like. The risk is on me, the reward is on me. That is very true about most professionals anyway. If you're a CA, independently practicing, a lawyer, a CS, you are certainly not bound by the restrictions. But then again, for those who are in the corporate world, if they're associated with the company, yeah, they do have to follow orders. So it all depends on you. It depends on your risk appetite. And definitely, if you feel that you are a risk taker in life and you feel you want to branch out on your own and go into business for yourself, then you should seriously consider being an entrepreneur. But if you are more risk averse, if you're family oriented, if you want to make sure that you have a comfortable living style of living, and you know that there will be a paycheck coming in at the end of the month, then stick to your job. And honestly speaking, like these are very noble professions. Being a CA, being a CS, and being a lawyer, these are very highly regarded and respectable members of the community. So that is definitely there. And one another thing that all these three lines of work have in common is that there is a very strong moral code of conduct, which is not just metaphysical, but it is also laid out in the law books. For example, you have the bar council rules when it comes to lawyers. Similarly, you have codes of conduct for CAs and CS, which are very seriously followed as well. But more than just like the letter, we must follow the spirit of these codes of conduct, because the way we carry ourselves, that is the way people see us, that is the way people see the profession. And very honestly, like our profession, especially like when it comes to lawyers, could do with a little bit of a glam up. So if we were to follow these codes of conduct more ethically, then probably that would be a good thing for the entire professions. And apart from like these laid down codes of conduct, there are also certain like norms, and there are certain kind of mores which should be followed, especially when it comes to soft skills, or like how you would be facing an interview, or how would you be conducting yourself when it comes to clients, or be client facing. So these are some things that everyone must remember. There are certain books which teach these ways. Some books that really helped me were Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, which is taught to most corporate professionals by way of like HR training. My pointer, which I remember very clearly, is to keep the end in mind. Begin with the end in mind. So whenever you start on a project, imagine the feeling of having completed it, having succeeded. That is going to motivate you through the goal. Some other books that were helpful to me were Dale Carnegie's book on how to win friends and influence people. That's a very seminal work. Then there are certain books on body language. One was by Leila Lowndes, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, and they talk about like sticky eyes. When you talk to somebody, imagine that like there is like super glue between your eyes and theirs. So maintaining that contact generates like goodwill. So these are some things. These are some people skills that professionals need to remember, because it's not just about crunching the numbers or presenting forceful arguments or things like that. It is also a very human skill that we possess, and this is something that we must maintain. So as you can see throughout my little speech today, I have tried to impress upon you the fact of like the humanness, the oneness of us all. Whether it starts with not losing heart, it's okay to fail, it's okay to feel, or coming down to things like body language, demeanor, and soft skills. All these things are important to make a corporate professional fully rounded and whole. So this is the learning and the takeaway that we take away with us today, is that we are not just corporate professionals, but we are individuals, we are human beings, and we must always remember that. And if you remember that, that is the base of a very successful career in all these three fields. So I wish all the best to all the advocates, all the CS and all the CAs who are with us today, taking part in this wonderful initiative by the CLJ. Once again, I would like to congratulate them for having taken up this endeavor, and wish them all the best of success. And to all of you watching out there, I would hope that my pointers have hit home in some small measure, and that will be very happy for me to know that it has had some small impact on the career and the future of our nation. Thank you so much.